Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm really excited for today's video. I can't remember if I did this last year or not, but this is definitely something that I want to do this year and going forward. And today I'm going to be sharing with you all of the makeup pans throughout my collection. So I believe I have 13, possibly 14 pans throughout various powder and cream products. And then I also have all of my Colourpop Super Shock shadows that I've hit pan on to share with you guys today on top of those 13 or 14 other products. And I want to kind of track this as the years go on. I really do focus heavily on project panning on this channel. I do a ton of project panning content. I love project panning, and I just want to track how many pans I have in my collection each year, as it obviously will fluctuate. I know this year, as opposed to previous years, I was really focused on hitting pan on like my bronzer category, for example, on hitting pan on multiple bronzers, rather than focusing my attention on one or two bronzers throughout the year to actually finish up. So I'm really excited to share all of the products within my makeup collection that currently have pan on them, and then compare this next year at the end of 2022. So if you're excited to see the products throughout my makeup collection that currently have pan, stay tuned. First, if you have yet to subscribe to my channel and you like project panning content, or you just like to chit chat about makeup, I would love if you would consider subscribing before moving on. And other than that, let's jump into the video. All right, guys, I'm hoping to get this video up at the end of 2021. It just depends how quickly I can like edit all of the videos that I'm currently batch filming. But I thought maybe I would start with my Colourpop Super Shocks just really quickly and breeze through all of them, as to me they're like the less exciting part, and then we'll get into like the exciting pans. So if you guys love project panning content, I'll have all of the projects that I participated in this year, like the playlist for them, linked down below. But in my Partners in Cream project pan, I specifically focused on cycling through my Colourpop Super Shock shadow collection to try and hit pan on every single shade. If you don't know, Super Shocks, which I didn't know when I first started using them, are actually like a cream product because it's like a cream to powder. So I included them throughout my Partners in Cream project pan and tried to hit pan on as many as possible. I have 9 Super Shock shadows that have pan on them, and then I have 2 additional cheek products that are Colourpop Super Shock as well to share with you. So quickly, I'm just gonna breeze through all of these. I have Co-Pilot, which has a pretty pan on it, and some of the pans are better than others. Then I have Prickly Pear. That pan is not that good. That looks like I don't want to say like looks like I cheated, but like I definitely wore my finger in like the same spot. If you don't know, Colourpop Super Shocks are really easy to hit pan on, but they take forever to finish up, let me tell you, because here, this next one I've been trying to finish up throughout like year-long project pans, and then also my graveyard project pan, which is another 6 months. So this one right here was part of their Halo Top collaboration, and this is in the shade Extra Sprinkles. It is really thin around the outer edges, but like, I mean, that pan isn't even that big. Still, it's a pan. Also from the Colourpop Halo Top collection, I have this one in the shade By the Pound. I had 2 of my Colourpop Super Shocks also from the Halo Top collection dry out, which was a bummer. I do try and screw the lid on as tightly as possible, but sometimes they do dry out on me. This one right here is from the Tinkerbell collab. This is in the shade Fly to Your Heart. Then from the Wild Child collection, I have the shade Run Wild. From the Wildflower collection, I have the shade Flower Child. This is a really beautiful Super Shock. This is one that I might try and like actually finish off, or like focus more heavily on that. Next up, I have Colourpop Ritz. This is a really teeny tiny pan. I hope you'll be able to see that. Ritz is such a beautiful shade though. And then finally, I have the shade Socialize, which is this really fun like purpley pink shade as well. So I have 2 or 3 more Super Shocks in my collection that don't currently have pan on them. So I'm thinking I will focus on those at the beginning of my Partners in Cream project pan, and then maybe cycle back around and really try and finish off, or like really heavily focus on one of these and see how much more pan I can get on one of them. I look so pale. Okay, and then like I mentioned, I also have 2 Colourpop cheek, like Super Shock cheeks. So I have the shade Flexitarian. I've had this for quite a bit, and I obviously like focus my finger in this one spot. I've used this a lot throughout its lifetime with me, and I have a decent sized pan, but also there's so much product left in this. Like if you can see, like there's so much product still in this. I don't feel like I'm ever gonna finish that off. And then I prefer the shade Lunch Money just because it's not quite as intense as Flexitarian. So this one has even a bit larger of a pan. And I think I might also include this in my Partners in Cream project just because I barely reached for either this or Flexitarian this year. And I would like to see what I can do in terms of like expanding the pan on that. But those are all of my Colourpop Super Shock products. Now let's get into my little basket of other products that currently have pan on them. So in no particular order, I have my Kevyn Aucoin Sculpting Powder. This is in the shade Light. I've focused on this in multiple projects and I have a really beautiful pan on this, but this is taking me forever to finish just because I don't typically contour all that often, especially anymore, and I just do not find myself reaching for this. I do want to join in on, my friend Emily has a project on her channel, I believe it's called Clean Your Pans, where she is focusing on products that already have pan on them that she wants to work on either another goal or finishing off. I'm thinking of starting that project as well, and this is definitely a product that I would include in that project. I think it was earlier this year I hit pan on the shade Frosted Rose in this Lancome highlighting palette. These pans are really shallow and I was hoping to hit pan on these other two shades this year, but obviously that did not happen. So hopefully next year when we wrap up this video, or when I share my pans with you next year, I could have 3 pans in this palette. That would be super exciting. I was also really excited this year I hit pan on a shade out of my Smashbox Cali Contour Kit. I used to rave about this face palette and I still love this face palette. So obviously I have a pan on the lid setting, or like the banana under eye setting shade right here. And I am super excited about this. It is a smaller pan and I would love to see another pan in this palette, as this is probably, up until this point, was my least used shade in this palette. I love the contour, bronzer, and blush in this palette, so perhaps next year we'll have to aim for another pan in that palette. My Fenty Beauty Lightning Dust and Fire Crystal duo. I had this huge pan already going into this year. I was hoping to finish up this pan this year, but I obviously did not do that. But now we have a little baby pan on the other side of this as well, which I'm super excited about. So hoping that in 2022 I can expand the pan on this, or potentially even, maybe, possibly, probably not, finish up both sides of this highlighter. So let's stick with highlighters. I also have a pan on my Mary Luminizer. I have a huge pan, not a huge pan. I have a pan in the center of this. This is a huge pan though, and I have so much product left in this. This is something I would like to expand this pan for like next year's update, but by no means do I think I will finish this highlighter. I also have my RMS Living Luminizer Glow Quad, which I was hoping to finish up all 4 shades this year, but unfortunately that just did not happen. As you can see, I have 2 pans. This one is pretty much almost used up, but 2 pans in this palette. So I'm hoping next year to actually just finish this quad up. And this is another product that I would like to probably throw into my Partners in Cream project for like the introduction, and focus on the bronzer shade and the other highlight shade that does not currently have a pan on it. But 2 pans in that palette, which is super exciting. Also, I'm switching from highlighters to bronzers. Well, that was a sneak peek. Okay, let's try and stick with highlights because I have one other one to share, and I don't know, like, okay, so I have my Bobbi Brown Pink Glow highlighter right here, and this is a waffle pan. So I swear to you, I have pan because I can see the waffle and I can like see the plastic like right here in the center, but it's so hard to tell just because it is a waffle pan. This is another highlighter that is an absolute favorite of mine. I would love to see if I could finish this up in 2022, and then I would purchase the full size in this shade because I just adore it so much. This and Becca Rose Quartz, which I'm about to get to, are like my 2 favorite highlights. I reach for them all the time, obviously, because both have pan on them. So speaking of Becca Rose Quartz, I also have my little mini Becca Rose Quartz right here. I was wanting to finish this up this year, but we have a ginormous pan in this little mini. I still have a lot of product left in this, and honestly could potentially consider maybe repressing this just to make it easier to pick the product up like on a brush. But I am hoping that I could just finish this one up this year because I do have this shade in a face palette as well. So it'd be kind of cool to finish this up and then hit pan in that face palette. We'll end with bronzers, so I'll quickly share my Hourglass Luminous Light Lighting Powder. I have a pretty big pan going in this as well. This obviously is like a waffle type of pan, and I wanted to finish this one up this year too. It didn't happen. I've had this powder for a while. It's not my favorite, although I go super hot and cold. I have times where I really enjoy this powder and then other times where I just like do not feel like reaching for it at all. I really would love to finish this up in 2022 though, because I'm disappointed in myself for not going a little harder on this year, but it is exciting to share that pan. And then the last product before we get into the 5 bronzers that I have pan on, which is exciting to say I have 5 bronzers with pan. From RMS, I also have their Uncover Concealer, which has a pan in it. Now this has had a pan in it since the beginning of this year. I barely reached for this year, so I would like to toss this into a project this year and try and finish this up, just because I don't see myself finishing it up if it's not in a project. This is a product that I need that extra motivation to use and to reach for, but nevertheless, this does have a pan. So then let's wrap it up with bronzers. I'm really excited. I hit pan on all 5 of these bronzers this year, which is, it's an accomplishment. So up first, I have my Ilia bronzer. This is the Drawn In Nightlight Bronzing Powder. This is what my pan looks like. I pretty quickly hit pan on this earlier in the year, and then I started to cycle out this, or I started to cycle through other bronzers. I would potentially like this to be like my focus powder bronzer of this year, that aside from my other bronzers that I try and hit pan on, this might be one I try and finish up. This, I feel like I didn't love it, and then I was panning it and it was fine, and then I started to miss it. So I would like to try and like pan this and see if I like love it or just feel like meh about it, and whether or not I would want to repurchase it if I actually finished up this product. But I do think this is going to be the bronzer that I try and finish up completely in 2022. After that, I started to focus on my Fenty Beauty Sun Stalker bronzer in the shade Into Sun. I have a little tiny baby pan in this. This was super slow going, and I will say the pan on this is pretty thick. I used this so much this year, and going into this year I had already used this bronzer so much, so then I started using it as an eyeshadow because it just was not feeling like I was going to hit it if I was just using it as a bronzer. And it was only after I started using this as an eyeshadow that I was able to hit this little itty baby pan on it. So this bronzer I feel like will last you an eternity, because I had used this so much and still I just have this little baby pan. I would like to expand that pan next year, but I don't think I would finish that bronzer up. Then I started reaching for my Marc Jacobs Tantastic bronzer, and this was also a feat to hit pan on. I obviously have a little pan right here, but this, I also, going into this year, had already used this bronzer so many times, and I kept feeling like I was gonna hit pan on this, and then it just never came, and never came, and never came, and never came. And now finally, I have this little mini pan. And I have this ginormous pan of bronzer still to go through. So I don't think we'll be finishing that up in any time in the future, but I will take pictures of all of this and then compare to next year if I still have the product, or if I, like, obviously if I've used it up, I've used it up, but if I still have these products, then we can see how much I've like expanded the pan over the course of a year. The last powder bronzer that I have pan on is this e.l.f. bronzer in the shade Forever Sunkissed. This was the last powder bronzer that I hit pan on this year. I obviously have a pan right here, which I'm very excited about. This pan was also deeper than I expected, but I also feel like I've worn away. Like, I feel like I was swirling my brush pretty evenly. It wasn't like a huge dip in the center, because especially on like this whole side of the bronzer, I'm noticing the pan has like pretty significantly gone down. I don't feel like I'm explaining myself the best there, but I would love to see a nice expanded pan on this at the end of next year as well, but I don't think this is something I will finish. And then the final pan, this is a bronzer I am hoping to finish very early in 2022. It's my Little Mini Tarte Sea Breezy bronzer. This is a cream bronzer that I did hit pan on this year. I have a huge pan here. I was hoping to finish this up before the end of this year, but that clearly did not happen. I'm very disappointed because I feel like I'm so close. The pan is so big on this. It's so hard to like evenly distribute this on my brush these days, so I'm like kind of struggling to use this, and I'm hoping that this is just an empty next year and I don't have this to still share with you, because that would be very sad. But after that, those are all of the products currently in my makeup collection that have pan on them. I would love to know how many products throughout your makeup collection do you currently have pans in? Do you plan on project panning next year? Let me know in the comments down below. Other than that, thank you so much for sticking around to watch today's video and for supporting my channel as you guys always do. I love you guys so much, and I will catch you in my next video. Bye.